Hi, Piyawat.
Hello, Andres. Very nice
Yeah.
to see you. Thanks for the invitation. Yeah.
Today we will talk about your piece, Tele Tera. Can you just shortly introduce what's going on in this piece?
Yep. So, Tele Tera is a piece. Actually, is a continuation of my previous piece, which is called Tele Tele. So it was a piece that focused on um, the interaction between human and also the environment, which created through lights, environment, which is acoustic environment, and also how musicians interact with lights, how they interpret the sound from the shadow. So the outcome, like ultimately the outcome of the piece becomes a kind of living installation and a performative composition, like working between performers and non-musical materials. So the piece have been constructed through different components, like including the soloist, which is electric guitar, who kind of a main lead for the the whole orchestra. Like since it was like a piece for electric guitar and electronics lights, it's a solo piece before, and then this is a kind of extended version of that piece. Yeah, so like the electric guitars kind of like create as a main role of the piece, like questioning more about the sonic qualities, creating reverberation, distortion, the electric guitar qualities. And then it's connect to another part, which is electronics. So the electronic acts as sound reflection of the electric guitar, like how the electric guitar being produced, electronically. So then electronic kind of like reflect the kind of echoes, like the sound of like electric qualities. And then the electronics also um, um, connect to some other part, which is lights and video. So the light has been produced. So I made a kind of Arduino patch that um, receive the sounds from control with like the frequency. Like the lights has kind of eight light sticks like LED, and then let's say it's kind of game. So like I made like each light stick to receive like, let's say it will get blink when it get different kind of frequency. Like for example, it's very high, it means it's going to be a blink a lot, or it's very low, it's going to be kind of gleam sometime. And at the same time I kind of set different frequency, means pitches. So just put some algorithmic system that, for example, if we get this pitch, let's say A or like 440, and then another light will blink, and then like if we have a different kind of range of pitches, another side of light will blink. So it's more likely kind of like spinning, like rotation, like around, kind of more spatial in that way. And at the same time, another non um, music component, which is video. It's a kind of like a virtual reflection of reality. Let's say like we have camera that point out the performers like live all the time, and then we try to kind of magnify the behavior of the performers from the orchestra, like what are they doing, like correspond with the lights, like what is the behaviors of human presence, what is the fragmentations, like when you hear one sound happening, and then the video project how they do it, how they produce it, like maybe like close up to like clarinet facial expression, or some guitar, lights when he interact with lights. So like that's kind of like be projected to like behind the orchestra to just like more kind of like create uh the behavior to expose the human's behavior. And the last component, which is orchestra, which is human. So like we try to um I try to interpret orchestra as a kind of human installation, like because like it was originally was just um um just electric guitar, but then like it's kind of more expand like sonically. Like for example, if we have no conductor, and like we just like everyone just play by ear. So like I give some kind of like fragments for each section and kind of create a scenic notation, like by scene, what's going on in each scene, like what they have to listen. And once they listen, how would they react with what they hear? Like for example, um, one of the example, for example, like when brass like see a lot of blinking, like happenings, so they will produce some kind of fast gestures, musical gestures that correspond to like the blinking lights. And once there's no blinking, they will stop immediately. So it's kind of like more like corresponding between the happenings inside the environment. So like this process has been, it's kind of a chain process that humans start to um, react with what they experience in real time, right? And the sound, like the electronic sound, also was another reflection of what human does. And at the same time, the video also reflect what human been doing. So that's a lot of like in my interpretation, there's a lot of virtuality in reality, like this kind of concept like going along. So like lights, electric guitar, orchestra, electronics, video, like these five components kind of linked like consecutively, and it's kind of bound together. So yeah, and like the outcome of the piece become like the happenings of the combination of lights, sounds, visuals, and environments. So
Mm.
that become like from Tele become Terra. It's kind of like the big form of the um experience. Yeah.
And who commissions the work?
So the first the Tele was commissioned by during the COVID time. It's called BACC, Bangkok Art and Culture Center grant. So like we got kind of space grant to make work in the museum. So like we did the recordings at the times like COVID time, no one can come, but then like we decide to do a kind of on like virtual performance. And then the next commission is the Thailand New Music and Art Symposium, which is the festival that I was a curator, but right now like it's changed, so to be a new person. And then so for that it just like so it was my proposal to say like, hey, like I have this piece, and why not we have a piece, this piece connected to more people in the community, like post COVID, like orchestra. And I think that year there was 3 pieces commissioned to 3 Thai composers. We also had another piece for orchestra with narrator by Anotai Nitipon, and another piece by a young composer, like orchestra piece. So it's kind of good combination of like from one normal orchestra piece expand to like with some like narrator, and then ultimately end with this piece as like kind of the full experience of interdisciplinary, and also kind of collection of experiences, I think I would
Yes,
say.
got it. And what is an art? What is the main message, right? What would you want to communicate with that piece?
With this piece,
Yes.
so I would say a lot of my works focus on the process of working. Like my work decide to bring people to work for it. It's a bit kind of labor, it's kind of like make people to work. But what I'm obsessed is that I when you see like a concert form, right, you see only one dimension, right? But my message from here is to see different dimension that we try to produce at the same time. Like when you look, um, you hear a lot of complexity of sounds, but then you see how they make it through kind of like the ambiguity of the videos, and at the same time, the performers themselves, they they start to think about um, how to produce the sound through the environment. Like they're not reading music to play it, but they think about what they hear, what they listen in real time, and then they produce the sound in real time. So I would say like my message is about I want to create a kind of space that these 5 components like orchestra, video, lights, electronics, and electric guitar kind of blur together. So to create kind of it's kind of playground somehow. It's a playground of sound, of visuals, of environments, and it happens like in reality, you know. So
Yes.
that's a kind of like general idea. Yeah. Mhm.
And how you choose the title for the piece?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, it was Tele Tele before because the piece aimed to, create a situation that telematic situation, something happened but in a different um simultaneously happen together but in the different spaces, right? But then Tele Terra, like Terra means like something kind of multiple, right? Like kind of become like it could be also interpret as another territory. So it's like that. It's a kind of a lot of. I like to play with words, when I like title the piece like Tele Terra territory. So like it's a kind of like a space, like a playground, like a place that have both, like telematic and also acoustic, electronic. So there's a lot of happenings within this territory. So that's why I just call it Tele Terra, which means um, a lot of things happening in one space, and then one space can also connect to another space. So it's more likely an open-ended piece for me, like to create more process of sounds and visuals. So, yep.
Got it. Got it. And
Mhm.
what is the dramaturgy within the piece? Are there some dramaturgy?
Sorry, can you say it again?
Dramaturgy, right? How the piece
A
evolves.
drama.
Yes,
Oh,
dramaturgy.
cool. So, because the material is about, I mean, let's say the main material, visual, right? Visually, it's about light or no light, right? Usually, right? Like it means the drama of the piece is more likely we try to explore different shapes of light, different shapes of environment, like if the light kind of gleaming, like how the sound would be, right? If the light like strobing so hard, how sound would be, right? Um, and also, um, there's a lot of how to say, because human has limitation too. Like sometimes they react slower than other people. Let's say there must be some kind of delay, right? So for example, like 50 people, like when I say, okay, if the light strobe, then you do a lot of fast gesture with like chaotic sound with the notation I gave them. Then some people react slow. Like sometimes they stop slower than other people. Someone stop earlier, like immediate, like after the light done. So it becomes a real life delay. Like it becomes a kind of like instead of delay of sound, but this is a delay of human, right? And also like I like the idea of that the drama from technical things like effects like delay, distortion, it happens in real life in human, right? Like I like this behavior a lot, and this is a fatal point of my work too. Like I am interested in exploring human condition, like which it create drama itself, like through their physicality, through their interpretation. So yeah, that's create the whole drama of the piece. And I can send you if you like, I have like a kind of scene, like kind of the whole scenic like of the orchestra, like we have like 15-minute piece about, and then what is the order, you know.
Hmm.
But for me, like I mentioned before, it's an open end piece. Sometimes we can also switch around chapters, like I feel like for me form um is something that could switch, like to
Yes.
create different point. Like if this piece will be play again, so then I will start to switching, or not create the new events, but rather um give the event more unexpected, like then the drama will come from the players, from the environment. And sometimes technology has limitation too. Like for example, if we run visuals with lower tech laptop, then they have kind of delay as well, and they have kind of like stacking pictures, so I like this um behaviors a lot. So then I feel like this is a part of the drama of the piece. So then ultimately the drama um kind of unexpected, like kind of surprise. Yeah, so that's
And
it.
how many parts or chapters are in the piece?
Like, you mean scenes or
Yes, yes, scenes.
I'm looking now. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 15.
15. Okay.
15. So some part, some of the scene is it's similar, but it's not the same, but slight different, which actually it just completely, it's like a different color, right? Like blue, a little light blue, a little of little light blue, something like that. So I was thinking about this idea a lot. So
Yes.
yeah.
Well, and what is like the main compositional principles, right? Which you use in this piece?
Mm, composition principle. I I call it as scenic composition. Like I use a lot of scenic elements. Like in theater world, like they use a lot of scenes, like to put it up together. It's not sectional though, because each scene, um, any scene could overlap to any scene like properly, and so I start to think about sound material in each scene, like one scene, how the visual works, how the sound works, and then start to think about the interaction with the outcome of the visualization and the interaction of sound. Then I start to combine each scene together, or like ordering the scene, so yeah.
And are there some kind of order of the scenes, which is very important, or are there logic
Uh,
in the order?
So like I have a default order, like I said, like we have like 15 scenes. But then we could switch any order actually. But we it was a very fascinating rehearsal actually. We it was fun because we scheduled to rehearse this piece for 2 hours, but then all of us so happy in 40 minutes. Like because like we start to, when I rehearse with them, I start to tell them about the like scenic techniques, like how the scene works, how they have to react with the sound, and a little workshop, like 10 minutes. And then we just go through all the default scene that I prepare, and then it kind of worked perfectly. And then after that, we just do one more run through, and then pick some spots, and then it works pretty well with this technique. Like each scene, we don't have to start over again. We can start rehearse any place of the piece, and we can order any scene, like when we do. So like basically each musician will get, do you think I should share my screen so then you can see
Yes, yes, yes,
the
yes.
notation? I think that may be probably better to explain. Cool. So this is the score actually. I have QR code as well. So then they can just like, so I just go like, put the description of work, performance notes. So for example, woodwind, they get 1 page. They get sound like activities, like they have 4 sounds. And then they have 15 scenes, like play, for example, like the woodwind will be applied for scene 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, and so on. And the duration is, approximate. So because like they would know immediately which scene, because like we have the um respond to action, let's say contrast dynamic of electronics, loud, soft, and then the sound result will be like play or stop play immediately. So like they have kind of like default or the guide, like how to use
Mm-hmm.
sound activity. This is for brass, this is for percussions, and this is for keyboard, piano, this is for strings, and this is, let's say this is orchestra score, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
only 1 page. I don't know, I like this kind of score very much. So I just like have indicate scene time approximation, what instrument will join, like I mean they don't have to look, and like each musician, they don't need this page, they need only that page, but this is kind of like default.
Mm-hmm.
So like what's happening in order, sometimes we can like as I say last time, we try switch some scene, sometimes we, and then let's say okay, let's start with scene 5, something like that, and then it's very easy to just switching things around. And oh, loud hit, something like that. I like to use like short words very much, because save time. It's just like
Good.
people understand, like we don't need like long things, like yeah. And yeah, so something like that. So this is like a kind of the um notation. Like I like to do a lot of text for explanation,
Hmm.
so then they can read and they understand what's going on with like this piece, like what does it mean, right? So then when I met musicians, so I start to say like why this piece so important, because it is um a new experience for, you know, classical orchestral musician who never experienced this kind of music before. So it's nice to, I always mention to them like, um don't think that we are playing Mozart or something, you know, like we try to create a situation that everyone becomes an artwork, you know. Like I feel I said to them like, right now all of us become installation, like a living installation that create sound and visuals. So yep, so that's a kind of like basic of the techniques, let's say, like principle that I use. And yeah, so
Good. And what was the process of composing? How long it took, and what were the stages you go through, right?
sure, that's a very good question, because I love to talk about do like time, you know. So the process of this composition, I start compose Tele, which is the piece without orchestra yet. I spent about a month, whole month, like during the COVID time. At that time, I composed multiple pieces at the same time. But I spent the first 2 weeks learning about mechanics, you know, like Arduinos, learn how to build. There's one thing called relay, which is the response of the light triggering. So try to make it work, because the idea came out first. Like I start, okay, so like if we go in order, right, the process of making this piece is that first I start to think about the idea, right, the tele, like thinking about the piece that could be happening in TV or in the real place, but streaming to different place, and then you can feel a different um experiences. So then I was thinking like how I can, what would be the elements, you know, what would it be the elements for the piece. Then I start thinking like, when we look in the, you know, concert, like streaming concert or even the like normal concert, the element of lights is very impact to the production of the work, right? Like sometimes when we go to normal concert and when we have very bad light, it makes bad mood, right? It makes kind of like you feel like, oh, this is so boring, or oh, this is interesting, you know. So I just like, I start to pick the material first, which is sound light. And then I came up after that, like, okay, when we have sound light, maybe we should think about the physical interaction from the performer, and how do we do that. Maybe video could help, like to magnify their behaviors. So I came up with like performer, lights, video, and then electric guitar is already electronics. So the sound quality itself, so like it's cool, like just 4 things. So I start to do it, working on that, and then I start to think how to connect them, you know, like more reasonable, you know. Because I don't want to just write a piece of, oh, this is a piece for many things, but then i I want to make sure that everyone related, you know, like I want to make sure that all components of the piece are important, you know, like not like if I take something out, the piece will be broken. I like that way, you know, like I want to have a fixed components inside. So yeah, so that's the first process. Second, I learned mechanics. So I start to, you know, try out, went to shop, you know, kind of shopping with like lights, um the triggering, relay, Arduino boards. And then I have been working without any scores, just like trying sound, no sound, lights, no lights, video patching, Max, MSP. And then so it's kind of like workshop part, let's say. So at first I think about the music. Second, I kind of workshop with myself. I start to talk with collaborator who names Tanapat Orchestra. He's one of my ensemble members, so like technician. So like we kind of like work together. And then the third week, I set up a meeting with the guitarist, the soloist, to see like we start to talk like what he's concerning in the music, like so we start to get musical material from his opinion. Like for example, he said about what is the common issues or like sounds from electric guitar. So I start to take notes, and then like I start to get those material, and start compose the piece actually. Like I came up with a draft. It's not a kind of complete piece, more like a scenes. Like I mentioned before, it's more like a scene of music, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we start to try out in the real space. Like once we get support by the museum. So we spent a week there. Let's say like I had opportunity to try the space out the whole week, which is a one like is a great time to just work in the space. So I start to understand the acoustic, so then like the first the production in like I post in YouTube already, and the first production it was not complete yet, the score. We just have a kind of draft, but then kind of verbally communication, like I communicate with the performer, like, oh, what about do this scene before, and let's swap, and then so we did try out the first 3 days with the draft, and then we have a rest days, like a few days, and it's the period that I make the score. So then I made the score, and the performer already know the piece by scenes, but once I just construct everything in order, and then he just start to play it and then we just start to make the production. So this is kind of like the order. And then
Mm-hmm.
the last order, like after I got a commission by the festival, so I start to thinking instruments become the part of the piece. So think about the characters of each instrument. Then I start to create the scenic notation that I show you before, the kind of tables, like the off events, and then we rehearse. So we had one rehearsal only, which is cool, and I really feel strong that we have good musicians in my country, and it's cool, like because like the way that we work is quite verbally, like I of course I send them material before I open to them. I send them like 1 month, oh no, 2 months in advance. And then some of them send me questions before the festival. And then once we have rehearsal, everyone ready for the piece. And then we just start to talk verbally, like, okay, let's start with scene 5. Let's start with scene 13. What about let's do this scene first and then let's do that later. And then after that, it's kind of like become together. So I think this process is quite promising because um, everyone start to understand what they should aware of, what they should
Yes.
react, and then once they play, it's kind of fresh because they they have some anxiety too, right? Like, oh, is it right? Oh, is it wrong? But then once like everyone understand in the first place, so it's cool like that. So this is the kind of process of this work. I have been working 2002, 2020. Yeah.
Got it.
Oh,
And what kind of software you have used for the piece?
So so I use PD to appeal data to control the light triggering. I use Max MSP and Ableton, which is Max for Live, to control the electronic sound. And we use a software. I have a license. It's called Mad Mapper, which is project the videos, and also connect. So all the software connected in the way that they correspond. Like when video receive some sound input, and then they project. So and I make it more algorithmic because like sometimes they capture we have microphone, right? Like they capture different sound, and it's kind of like it's a big space, but still sometimes some other sound could come through the receiver very quickly. So I mean, this is like engineering if, right? The code, like if you say if you hear that, if you receive that, do that. But if you get another kind of sound, then you get another kind of videos event, or like distortion of the video, something like that. So it's more likely it's a simple decision actually. It just like what I did is like it's about frequency. Like if you get high frequency, then you get this kind of thing. If you get low frequency, you get this event.
Okay,
Yeah.
and did you code on your own this logic?
Yeah. Mhm. Yep.
So, so you,
And I
so you created some software, right, on your own for this piece?
Oh no, the software it's themselves, it's an existing software,
Okay, so
but
you were
but the codes, I
yes.
wrote the codes. So and I have I got a tremendous support and helps by the technician I work with, the Thanapat Orchestra. Like so because I'm a composer, my expertise is write music, and I have I have I have knowledge in computer language, so I know how to write, like for example JavaScript, or some basic like Max MSP code or PD. But then like so sometimes I ask like technician, like, okay, I have this. What do you think if we want this um, effect, and how we can patching in the most simplest way? Like for example, like I have some other pieces too, so I use software Max MSP, and then I wrote all the instruction. Like once my intention is that even like for some people who doesn't know how to make it, but once they open that file, then they can make it.
Mm,
That's just like the it's like you buy a laptop, right?
yes.
So you don't have to know how to make laptop, but once you know how to use it, so something like that. So yeah.
And what about hardware? What kind of hardware was in was used?
Card what
Hardware.
hard work
Yes,
or
ha-
hardware.
hardware.
Oh yeah. So so I use for example, if like in the video, you can see there's a three people sit on the table in surrounded by the orchestra, right? So I use one laptop, which is mine, control the sound, which is Ableton Live, the software, and also Max MSP about the patch, sound patch. And then another person, like the technician, like he used my patch like PD to control the lights interact, right? um so we made the automatic patch, but at the same time I like to have plan B, plan C, so like we also have kind of manual backup plan, like for example if but luckily everything worked.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah. So one laptop for sound, one laptop for mechanics, and another laptop for videos. So basically we use 3 laptops to control, because like if we load everything in one laptop, it's gonna crash, like because like it's too much. It's sound, videos, mechanics. So yeah, we need to separate. Yeah.
Yes, got it. And
Mhm.
lights and
Lights. Yeah.
yeah,
So lights is mechanic part. Yeah. Mhm. The mechanic laptop. Yeah.
yes, got it. And
Yeah.
uh, can you imagine the piece without lights and video?
Uh
Would it be like
no,
sound only, the piece?
no. Because like I said before, like if it lacks something, it means the piece will be broken. And like I mentioned before, the piece attempts to create a living installation, so like we need the interaction from lights to trigger the sound, which come from both electronics and acoustic, like human. So that's the point of the piece, that we create a world, right? Like the territory of Tele and Terra, which create the accumulation of sound experience, visual experience, environmental happenings. So it's a playground of the whole experience. So that's that's my answer.
Got it,
Yeah.
got it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what was your pre uh, learnings when you create this piece, right? What you learn?
Or what I learned after the
Yes,
piece.
yes, yes, yes.
Yes. So um every time when I compose new piece, right, I I think it as a map. It's like journey, right? I learned a lot, like from this piece. I learned a lot about management. It's a lot of like, it's like a curation. It's like I become a curator of this installation. Like I learned how to curate sound, how to think about the relationship between among components in the piece. um Actually, like I said, like when I said about map, because it helped me to create the next piece. And also I create this piece from another curiosity from another piece that I had before. So like before this piece, I had Tele, right, that I was trying to um question about the relation between human and machine. And then now I just have Orchestra to become an installation, kind of like disorientation or functionality of the human, something like that. But before that, I I had a piece called Burning Symphony. So it's a theater piece. It's a kind of like challenging the concept of virtuality. It's like,
Mm.
so I by using theater, um so I made a lot of footages, like filming of the sound activities. Like I had a team, 5 people, went to um the beach. There's a forest in the beach, and we start to burn instruments. Like we try to question about how the instrument has been made. Like thinking about like um um for example, trombone. I'm a trombonist. Like how before we create trombone, it was a dust. It was like a kind of bronze before. So like once we burn them, and then we see it's kind of reverse process. We see the originality of the material. But then like after that experience, I found that um when we film it, it's a different piece as we experience in the real space. Like it's like in a movie, like there's a lot of editing process, like how you decide the, you know, the footages, how you decide the events or scene, right? So then I start to use this kind of technique, like about scenes, about like capturing moments of the piece into Tele, and yeah, and it just keep growing. It's like it's keep extended, which like come back to your question is that I learned a lot how to curate things, how to, you know, manage my own materials, let's say, in a more, of course, complex way, but at the same time more interactive. So I like this word a lot, because sometimes when I listen to, like, you know, normal, like contemporary music, sometimes I, for me, I feel like it, something is missing, you know, like sometimes it's just only sound, it's just only piece, but then why, I always asking, like, why it has to be this sound. You just change the name of the composer, but it's a similar techniques, something like that. So I just question this a lot. So I, but then like for this piece, it give more um freedom of choice, you know, like to choose, to organize. And the last thing that I learned would be, I like to work with people a lot, you know, like I learned a lot from how they approach to materials I gave them. Like, you know, like when I learned about the delay of people, you know, like in real life, and I learned a lot of labor work, like how they think. There's a lot of, a bit of everything, you know, like in my head, like from this piece, as it is, like there's a lot of things going on in one circle. So yeah, I don't know, I'm answering your question, I'm a bit,
Um,
you
and the
know.
last, not the last question. What would be your suggestion to other composers who would like to create visual sound installation?
um wow. That's a, for me that's a hard question, because it is weird, it's weird for me to recommend. You know, it's just like I think I I would say my opinion, but I wouldn't say like, oh, they should do that, you know. But my, in my perspective, I always find the relation of everything, you know, like it could, like, connection and disconnection between sounds and visuals are important to my work. Like how we, like, we cannot just, oh, I'm gonna write a piece for saxophone and video, and then one sax and then one video, just that. I mean, I'm not gonna, like, it's just hard to, because like media has, how I can say this, um recommendation, this is hard. I just feel like this is a hard question. Okay, let's make it simple then. So I would say, um try to find the connection between sound and visuals, because like what you see and what you hear is a separate perception, right? But once you see some links, right, then it it takes you to some other level, you know. It takes you to find more process in your composition. And at the same time, like, it doesn't have to be complex at all, you know. Like I think, like, um be realistic. I don't know, like realistic in this term means like, sometimes the sound is just the sound, you know. It could be covered by just one picture, let's say, you know. I would just say that be realistic, be simple, be honest with the with the musical language. You know, like I I just feel like, for example, like this work, that's a lot of questions. You know, a lot of like it's like blinking. You know, like that's a lot of blinking gesture. There's a lot of blinking sounds. There are a lot of blinking video. So this is very simple to me. Like is the connection that very strong to my work to accumulate everything. So yeah, I don't know. Is it answer your question?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, and thank you very much for our conversation.
sure. You're welcome. Yeah.